Hello, everybody. I'm here with the latest blindside victim of online survival 4. And
Mhm.
how's it going?
Hello, it's going well. Legend has it I still have my idol in my pocket,
You
and
still
I'm
have
still
it?
telling people about it.
No, not still telling people about it 9 months later.
Yeah.
So, how has it been watching your game back overall?
Oh, it's been horrible. I see so many mistakes in my gameplay and I'm like, oh, hindsight is so 2020. Should have done this, could have done that, but it's gonna happen. I feel like there were some mistakes along the road, but overall I'm, proud of how I played.
Before I get to the hard hitting questions, I'll go back to the beginning, talking about the Legends team in
Go
general.
Legends.
Why I've asked this to Jason too, but why do you think you all got along so well off rip?
That's a good question. I think it was just like by chance, like all of us had similar personalities and we meshed well. And we were really united as a team. Like we were focused on, let's start this out strong as a team. When we get to the merge, we'll figure that out. But as for right now, like let's be a strong team unit and let's just try and win these immunities as a team until it comes down to an individual game. So I think the other team was playing individual from day one, it seemed like.
Talk about the four-person alliance and how that came about for you. Like, what was your initial thoughts on that for?
It felt like very well rounded. Like me, Jason, Dom, Rita. Like I feel like we had, all the elements to make a good alliance and, thinking long term. Like, okay, of course we're not gonna be like a strong team of all of us come the merge, but hopefully us four, can make it to the other side. Didn't happen quite as planned. But, I think it had so much potential and we'll just have to wonder what could have been with that.
Before the swap, who were you closest to in that alliance?
That's a good question because I felt like I was kind of, going back and forth. I felt closest with Rita and Dom, but I also felt like there was potential with Riazo. And I feel like right before I was voted out, I was like, okay, maybe I should get closer to Riazo. Maybe I can pull him in as a number, but we see how that went. But he did a good job of making everybody feel that way. I think like they were confident with him, so I think he played smart.
You touched about the other team a little bit, and what was it like watching them back? Because you heard a lot about them, and you saw them at competitions before the tri swap, before the merge. You
Mhm.
said they were playing individually. Why do you think that was?
It was cutthroat. It was hard out there. I mean, there was like some name calling, some like throwing people under the bus. I was like, it was out the gate, and I was like, wow, they had to kind of play an individual game because when people are targeting each other, it's like, all right, it's go time. Like, who can I trust? Like, so there was a little bit of scrambling, but it's interesting to watch and to see the reactions and who they were targeting. It was like they were targeting each other before the merge even happened, which was interesting. But um, we just had a very different um, experience because we got to vote off no shows. So it was kind of
Yeah.
easier for us. But, for them, it was right off, first loss and we're targeting each other because they kind of had to.
Do you think that made Riazo's game, I guess, socially easier because he got to go to the other team while they're so split up?
Oh, absolutely. And I think we can see that like versus like comparing Typhon's arrival to our team versus Riazzo. There are a lot of cracks on the other side, so plenty of opportunity for Riazzo to like weave his way in, build connections, and I think he joined in at a perfect time where they were kind of scrambling and looking for something solid, and he provided that with like each and every person, which was very impressive. That was like one of my favorite things to watch back was to see how Riazzo just jumped right in and was great on the other team. Yeah.
At the merge, how did you feel about Riazo? Did you know he was doing as much as he was doing, or did you think he was just really floating?
I was incredibly doubtful of Riazzo's gameplay and strategy, and I underestimated just how much he was scheming. And that's been like the most surprising thing to watch back is how much he took a part of like the behind the scenes work. So I was, I was still skeptic because I feel like I had a lot of unanswered questions about, where he went and what his connections were like. But after that first one-on-one with him, he was like, I'm still with you guys. Like I believed him instantly because I don't know what it is about Riaza, but he knows how to deliver a line and get you to trust him. So, I was
Is it his calm energy?
It might be his calm energy compared to my very anxious, paranoid energy. It was like a good balance. I was like, you know what? I trust you.
Before we get too deep, I want to go back to the beginning because I talked about this on the podcast. At the very beginning in your confessional, you say you like tight-lipped players. You don't like players that spew too much info. Why do you think you then went and did the opposite?
You know what? That was a question I was asking myself, and I think you kind of explained it well. I think we unintentionally, maybe it was you or one of the other members of the podcast had said, you kind of unintentionally become what you don't want to be. And I still do admire the very like tight-lipped players. Like I think Ashley's doing a really good job at that, not telling everybody about your advantages. I think I really admire that, but I just made a mistake of kind of viewing information as a sign of trust and thinking that if I told a lot of people, which I didn't mean to do, about something that I had, that it would build trust. And I don't think that was the case. And I failed miserably with that.
Was that your goal with Ashley when you told her about the idol?
Yeah, I was hoping, I was really open to working with Ashley, and it didn't really get the same kind of energy from her, but I was like, this could be what bridges that gap. Like I tell you about my advantage, you give me a little clue about yours, we can be friends and, work together, and it'll be like peaches, all happy rainbows, right? But I dropped that like way too soon, and I don't know why. I was expecting her to, one, trust me, and two, tell me something that vital that early in the game. It was just a misplay on my part, one of several. And yeah, I told way too many people about that idol.
Let's talk about the Jason vote, I guess, because it did become such a big deal.
The Jason vote.
You were shocked. You had a nice shocked face during that reveal that he was voted out. Mm-hmm. What was your thought process after that? And how did you feel about Susan after that?
I really didn't think it was that big of a deal. I mean, like, of course, the initial shock was like, there, but it was explained and, we heard both sides, and then it kind of was what it was. Like, it's so shocking watching back to see how many times that Jason vote got brought up, like in tribals. And, I feel like it was to my benefit that I didn't really make it a big deal. And I was like, okay, whatever. Because some people, held that for the rest of the game, about Susan voting out Jason. But I'm like, it is what it is. It already happened. Next, what's next? Like, there's no point in like harboring on an old vote. It already happened. But I did think it kind of put some mistrust within Susan, just knowing that like, okay, she's a flip vote, so she can sway back and forth.
So that's how you felt about Susan at the merge?
Yeah, I knew that she meant well, and I still liked her as a player. But at the merge, I was like, she has potential to kind of go with majority or whoever's in her ear, like telling her what she wants to hear and who to vote for. Like, I think she had the ability to flip very easily. Yeah. So kind of a wild card.
Did you ever think about like trying to dissuade Rita and sometimes Dom's tunnel vision towards the whole Jason vote thing?
I wish I did. And I wish we like tried to pull back in Susan as a number, because I think that would have really helped us out. But I think also in the moment, I didn't see how tunnel vision they were. And so looking back, I did wish I would have said like, okay, guys, let's shift our focus here. Let's not get lost on what happened. Let's focus on what's next and, what's going to happen. But yeah, that Jason vote, something else.
Huge deal. I asked you this during the game, but I don't know if I made the edit. So you had an opportunity to choose an advantage. You chose the idol over the swap vote, and then the swap vote ends up sending you home. Mm-hmm. Do you regret that or nah?
I think about this a lot, and you guys touched on it in the podcast as well. Like when you have an idol, like it does create so much paranoia of like, am I going to use this? Am I not going to use it? Like, who do I tell? Who do I not tell? I feel like the swap a vote had a lot of potential to make like a game changing move versus the idol. And I think when I was making that decision, I wasn't thinking about like, okay, somebody else is now going to get the swap a vote and it's going to potentially send me home. Like I wasn't thinking like that. I was just like, okay, I don't want to cause any major rifts or put a target on my back. When in doubt, I'm just going to choose safety. But now I think about that a lot. Like if I did choose a swap a vote, because we can see like the impact it had, and that could have been in my favor. So yeah,
I mean, to be fair, playing your idol could have had just as big of an impact.
that is true. But still in my pocket to this day.
Well, we'll get to this latest episode. I want to touch upon the Muggsy vote and the chaos there that Riazo was behind, that she allegedly had an idol, but you didn't buy it. Do you like the way you played that? Do you think you pissed off Muggsy too much, though?
Oh, I think I clearly struck a nerve, as we could see in that episode of just like calling it out. I was like, you know what, I'm not going to let this. I didn't really want it to become a bigger narrative and actually have influence on the vote. If anybody was truly believing that that was real and being like, okay, now we need to put votes on someone else because what if she plays the idol? Like I was like, nope, not real, not happening. Nice try though, and it was really funny to see that that was Riazo's idea because he was just kind of stirring the pot a little bit. It was fun to watch back.
Do you think that Muggsy vote for you put a slightly bigger target on your back, though?
Maybe put like the idea into people's heads of like, okay, why is she voting Emily? I think it was just I pissed her off right before Tribal, so it was like, all right, I'm voting her. But I don't know, and I'm kind of curious about that. Like, what did start the like shift towards me? Probably the fact that everybody knew about my idol, but it's interesting to watch back because it doesn't seem like that was too much of Ashley's rationale behind the vote. So it was kind of interesting.
So watching back your elimination episode, how do you think you played it? Because on the podcast last night, Mike said he almost gave you an up until the last couple of minutes because then you got voted out.
I know. I was like, I feel like I was starting to get my groove. Like I was starting to like, play the game. I was building some connection with Riazo, like making some moves with like Mary and kind of getting through to Ashley. Like I feel like me and Mary were really on the same page. Like, yeah, let's get out Dom, even though I wasn't going to vote Dom. But like there was some like, camaraderie there. I felt like I was starting to build a little bit of a connection with the other side of the house, to set me up for, like further down the road. But we know how it ended. But yeah, I feel like I was starting to like, not talk about my idol all the time and actually play the game a little bit. And yeah, I'll just have to wonder what could have been.
Why do you think you didn't go for Riazo's original idea that night to go after Tabitha instead of Ashley?
You know what? I feel like Ashley's so strong of a player that it was important that we get her out while we could. And I feel like we thought we could that week, because we did see Ashley's influence on the other players. And it was starting to become apparent that she was, working with Susan, Mary, Tabitha. And it might have been like an easier vote to go for Tabitha. I think we bit off a little more than we could chew, but that felt like kind of an easy out to just vote somebody who's not here. And there seemed like no real reason to target Tabitha at that time. So it was like, let's go for more of a target who we know is having a lot of control over these votes and see where that goes. We kind of had like a pecking order that we had made and didn't quite go as planned.
There was a hit list, yes.
There was, yeah.
So watching it back, where do you think the night went wrong for you?
Absolutely in that Shack chat before Tribal, where I think it was like me, Riazo, and Ashley in there, and it was just kind of awkward. And I don't think I should have been like, okay, so we're still voting out Dom, right? Like to kind of create some reassurance within everyone, like, okay, this is still the plan. But I didn't really say anything, and that was kind of suspicious. And I think Ashley said that herself, like, okay, why aren't you confirming the plan for this Tribal in a few minutes? Like, that's kind of suspicious. And I think that's where the target of like, oh, Emily and Riaza might be closer than we think. Like that ideal kind of formed from that conversation.
So, what was the reason you didn't play your idol?
You know, I felt so strong about that Ashley vote, and I think it was going to go as planned up until Riazo told Ashley, use whatever you got. Like, you need to use it tonight, trust me. And she did. And that was kind of my goal. And like telling people about my idol is that some people would have my back enough to tell me, like, hey, tonight's the night you need to use it, like Riazo did with Ashley. Of course, I told too many people, and, you know, there was no heads up that I was expecting because I really just had no idea that it would be me. But I should have played it when in doubt. And I'm glad Dom played his. It made sense as well. And yeah, I don't know. For someone who was so paranoid the whole game, I didn't play it when I needed to. It was wild.
That's just how it happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Watching back this season, what is surprising you the most? I guess Riazo, but anything else?
I guess, yeah, Riazo, and I like seeing Ashley's gameplay. I feel like she's very diplomatic. Like when she was forming, I think like the 5-person alliance, she was like telling Riazo, like, okay, me, you, Tabitha, Susan, Mary, we're voting together till final 5. This is how it's gonna go. Like she's so very sweet, but also assertive, and it was like fun to watch how she kind of was like, this is what's gonna happen. This is how we're gonna execute it. And I think that's what drew Riazo into that side, like having more like solid plans than me, Dom, and Rita kind of being like, oh, Jason, the Jason vote, like kind of, you know, lacking sight of the future and what that would look like. So yeah, I'm very impressed by Ashley's gameplay. I love seeing Riazo run around, and yeah,
He
I
runs
think
around.
that's been the most like shocking thing to see. It's like how many strings Riazo was pulling behind the scenes, but I'm curious to see how that's going to go long term when people start realizing it.
Would you ever play again to try and get redemption?
Oh, I would love to. And you can bet that I would never tell anybody about anything. It was so hard to watch back. And I was like screaming at myself, like, please shut up. Like, it's so hard to watch myself and to hear the well-deserved criticism about, you know, me babbling and just rambling on. And yeah, I would definitely be more quiet. Yeah, but I would love to play again.
Was that your biggest lesson?
I think for sure it was, you know, to not let my paranoia get the best of me, which is easier said than done, but just to observe and be very, dare I say, tight-lipped with my gameplay. Yeah, just to not be so revealing with information and to not think that just because you give somebody information that you're going to earn their trust in return, because that was, yeah, a bad idea on my part.
Now, I used to play a game in past seasons. I forgot to do it with Jason and Dar and Typhon. So you're going to be my guinea pig this season.
Yay.
So I'm just going to say a player. I want the first word that comes to mind once I
Oh gosh. Okay.
mention their name.
Okay.
We will begin with Rita.
Logical, I'm going to say.
How about Dom?
Competitor.
How about Susan?
Wild card.
How about Jason?
Leader.
Yeah. How about Typhon?
Observant, since he kept calling himself that.
How about Dar?
That's hard.
It could be a few words if one doesn't suffice.
Yeah, it's hard to just assign one. Dar. That's hard. Went home with the idol club.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How about Muggsy?
Just one for Muggsy?
It could be a few.
Fierce, bold, at times vulgar, and unfiltered.
How about Mary?
Reserved, yet observant.
Tabitha?
Vegas.
Ashley?
I think leader with her as well, but also calculated.
Riazzo?
I'm thinking like Joker. He's just like a Joker. The puppeteer, puppet master.
How about Emily?
Oh, talks way too much. Blabbling. I think that's what the word they used on the podcast.
Yeah.
Talking way too much. Way too much. And paranoid, I'd say. Very paranoid. I look back on the Darstar Shack chat where he was laughing and I was like, what are you laughing about? And I'm like, Emily, stop. It's not always about you. It's okay.
I mean, honestly, I couldn't blame you for that one because he was laughing it up. And he did have an idol, so you weren't that wrong. He just didn't use it.
Yeah, I was just way too paranoid, way too suspicious, way too soon. And not when it actually was warranted. Yeah.
One question I want to ask, I forgot. At the merge, because at the very beginning, you, Riazzo, Susan, at least had an agreement of like, oh, we're going to have each other's bags. Did you all just not take it seriously enough? Or did you all ever think about reconverging at the merge?
Oh, how I wish we did. You know, I feel like that had so much potential, but with Riazzo flipping teams and then with Susan kind of unspokenly going to the other side, voting with Ashley, Mary, and them, it kind of fell short. I feel like it kind of just dissipated. But I feel like if we had an opportunity to talk, us three, we could have been like, hey, remember what we said about looking out for each other? Like that would have been a cool three to have. But Riazzo and Susan, I feel like, are the most unpredictable in the game at this point. So I don't know if I would want to closely align myself with them. I don't see myself ever targeting them directly, but as far as having like unwavering loyalty, I don't think that was going to happen after the merge. But it would have been cool to have.
I did always feel coming into the merge that it could have been an interesting like middle group because you had the Legends, you had the Ashley trying to make a group that could have been an interesting middle group. But yeah. They are wild cards.
A little too unpredictable. I wanted to stick to what I knew, which was, you know, Rita and Dom, and hope that we could pull in Riazzo, but you know, he's a wild card, so yeah.
Well, any final thoughts you want to get off your chest about the season?
No final thoughts. I'm just so excited to see like how this unravels. I feel like the next few weeks are going to be crazy with the competitions, like the twists and turns. I'm so excited to watch, and it's been so much fun to play and to hear the commentary and criticism and tips for improvement. I'm taking them all, and I promise they're all noted, and it's been so much fun, and I feel like this was a really fun season to watch.
Yeah, definitely a great season, a great cast. I think you definitely added to the cast. I'm trying to refrain from doing a returning season for at least another little while, but one of these days I'm going to ask you to play another game, so hopefully
I would gladly accept and be very tight-lipped this time.
All right, thank you, Emily.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.